Hey guys, what's up? I'm Ninji, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing this huge write-up article we got from Joe Blackburn today from Bungie. So, yeah, this is going to be a very detailed, quite long video. I've read over this entire article multiple times now, and I put together all the talking points of everything talked about in this update from Bungie. And yeah, I don't do videos like this very often, so this should be pretty fun. I pretty much wrote up a script with many talking points and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, anyways, there's a ton of information basically on the future of Destiny, with Witch Queen and beyond. And then lots of information about, upcoming seasons, season 14 and 15. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the video. If you ever have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. And let's begin. The Road to the Witch Queen. Again, this is written by Joe Blackburn. He is now, I believe, the game director of Destiny 2 currently. But yeah, so let's hop right into this. So, first things first, the Witch Queen is the first talking point. The Witch Queen, Lightfall, and beyond. So originally, the Witch Queen was set to release in the fall of 2021. This has been moved for a few reasons. This has been moved to early 2022, so that's all we have for now. But yeah, so it sounds like for a while now, Bungie's been wanting to move their big expansions to the beginning of the year. He talks about a couple reasons. For the health of the team. He doesn't really go into specifics for this, but I believe what he's talking about. I know that Bungie, they work really, really hard during the year, and then they have a big break for like a month during like the holidays. So yeah, I think possibly this is happening so that they work hard throughout the year, and then they have their break, and then they release their big expansion. And they can all be there to, see it happen and stuff, like fresh, right? Fresh with time off and all that stuff. So I feel like that is something I've seen Bungie talk about this before in the past. So yeah, so it sounds like from now on, the expansions will be launching in the beginning of the year instead of, the end of the year. Also, with the announcement of moving the Witch Queen to 2022, Bungie's also confirmed adding another chapter. So originally we had, Beyond Light, Witch Queen, Lightfall, and then that was it for this arc, I guess, as you will. There's been a lot of speculation on if Destiny would be over after Lightfall, and from what I'm getting from this article is that no, Destiny is not over after Lightfall. We're also adding another, I guess, let's call it an expansion. They just say another chapter, so I'm just going to say it's another expansion after Lightfall. So it sounds like we have Witch Queen 2022, Lightfall 2023, and some other unnamed expansion in 2024. And again, I believe that there's more. So Bungie literally specifically says this will complete the first saga, of Destiny. And this saga has been called, Light and Darkness Saga. And so I believe, again, like, this is not the end of Destiny, even when this ends, which is 2024. It sounds like, again, this is still, we're still lacking a lot of information, but this is an assumption that the world of Destiny is definitely not over. That is confirmed, but we don't know if, like, it's still going to be Destiny 2, or if there will be a whole new game. Again, I'm going to assume it's still Destiny 2 because it just doesn't make sense to make a whole new game. Starting over just doesn't make sense. But then again, it is the end of this saga, so maybe that is the end. Maybe that's the end of our characters. Maybe we start a whole new character. I don't know. But the future is very bright for Destiny. There's still a lot more to come. We have, another 3 more expansions. And I'm very, very excited. So that is the big news on the Witch Queen and beyond. Moving on to rewards that matter. So sunsetting has been sunset. Currently we have this system in place where pretty much something, once it's a year old, it is no longer sticking around. There's a maximum level cap on it. Well, that is now gone. So officially, starting from a year ago next season, which was Season of the Worthy, anything from Season of the Worthy and forward no longer has a power cap. So again, Season of the Worthy, which was the season of, Rasputin and stuff like that, with where like Warmind cells were introduced and all the Warmind weapons, all that stuff. So anything from that going forward is not having a power cap for now. He specifically talks about they still believe that there needs to be something to keep the game fresh and balanced. Sunsetting was not it. They don't believe sunsetting, was the correct path. And for me, I want to talk about a little bit of my own opinion. I still am a firm believer in sunsetting. Now, was the system that they put in place perfect? No. There was definitely some issues, especially on the armor side of things. The weapon side of things, I personally was I kind of liked it. It keeps the game fresh. It forces meta change. I personally, I play the game a lot, so it's a little bit different. Everyone's takes a little different, but I play the game a lot. Having a weapon for an entire year is plenty of time. I get quite bored. I like looking forward to the next season and having new weapons in the game to get away from, using the same old thing over and over again. So, like, for example, I was so bored of Recluse Mountaintop. I was so glad when I was finally forced to stop using those. But nothing was, like, they were so powerful that I was always going to use them when they existed. And now, Warmind Cell mods, like, they were super fun, but I'm bored of them. Like, I don't want to use Warmind weapons anymore, but at the same time, like, you kind of feel like you have to because they're so good. So I agree with what Joe is saying. Like, sunsetting definitely still some form of sunsetting or balancing or whatever you want to refer to it has to exist at some point, but the current version of sunsetting was not it. So there's definitely something in the works for future, and they will figure it out. And lastly, expect more tuning for specific outliers like Fellwinners and Warmind cells. So obviously in PvP, people are very aware that Fellwinners is the best shotgun when it comes to like light enabled stuff. So they will definitely be looking at Fellwinners and Warmind cells, like I just discussed. Warmind cells are obviously very, very strong. So we can expect some tuning, some balancing, and stuff like that for the big outliers in the game, which is good. I think that's definitely a good start. If there's very specific things that are clearly broken and need to be tuned down a little bit, that's okay for now. Moving on to power play. So starting in Season 14, there will no longer be the plus 50 light every season. There will only be a plus 10 pinnacle. So Bungie's plan for now, so for the seasons, there will only ever be the little plus 10 addition. But the major expansions, you can definitely expect some major increases, whether it's, again, they're very vague, but there'll definitely be something more than just the little plus 10 for major expansions. Hopefully this means just a rework in the system. I personally, and I know I'm not alone on this, a lot of people just not a huge fan of how power works in Destiny anymore, and like light leveling and stuff like that. For me, it's too pointless, too easy. Like it kind of just exists there. It's something to do, but there's no real reason to do it. Even like the pinnacle light cap. Like to me, I would like to see something that really pushes the end game, where it's like you can only reach that maximum by playing end game, and then you could have like a tiered version of end game where it's like, okay, you play this dungeon, and the only way you can even like access the raid is by playing the dungeon enough to the point where like, okay, now you're high enough to be able to beat the raid. Or so on and so forth. And maybe that's a bad example, but what I mean is like tiered endgame, where like maybe there's multiple versions of the raid, and the only reason, so like you can get to the first version of the raid by playing anything in the game, and that's fine. But then to get to that second level of the raid where it's even harder, and it's got like a locked level, so it's like you cannot over level it. You would have to play the first raid a lot to get the gear that you want to get into that second tier, something like that. Again, a lot of details, but yeah, I just think that the power system needs a whole rework, and I think that they're very aware of that, and hopefully there's something in the works for that. Moving on, Angels of Death. So this is all about PvP, talking about really what they want to do with PvP, the future of PvP. Expressing that they're invested in PvP, even if it doesn't always feel like that. So specifically, starting in Season 15, which will be, I guess, sometime around the fall, 3-peaking in Trials and Comp will be completely addressed. Emotes will no longer work. They'll be completely disabled in these two playlists, and you will be unable to pull out a third-person, weapon without ammo. So as long as you don't have ammo, in your sword, you won't be able to pull it out, specifically in trials and in comp. So again, this is dope. 3 peeking has been an issue since all the way back into Destiny 1, so this is very, very good. And I said it before, it's not a problem in like quick play because no one really cares. Nothing's on the line, so yeah, this is very, very good. Also, over the next several seasons, Stasis and Light classes will receive balance changes. So again, constantly looking at Stasis and Light classes to keep them more balanced. So right now, Stasis clearly is stronger in every way when it comes to Crucible. So it seems like they're going to try to do their best to bring Stasis down and bring Light even up so that they're, kind of equal. Specifically into Stasis, Titan, Hunter are both receiving major nerfs, as we can see. Titan super damage reduction. It's going to cost more to use the super light attacks. You will no longer freeze enemies when you pop your Titan super, and they're going to reduce the travel efficiency, efficacy, on one of the attacks. Hunter specifically, the damage and tracking is going to be decreased. They're also decreased slow stacks applied to targets, and they're removing Shatter Dive's damage reduction. Then lastly, Warlock, they're fixing a couple bugs. Apparently there's bugs that cause issues with tracking. Tracking towards targets immediately on creation, and where Shade Binder's super projectiles were not tracking until a certain distance traveled. So apparently they're fixing some bugs with Warlock. Warlock is not getting nerfed anymore, thank God, because personally, the Warlock stasis is so bad. Also, again, they don't really talk about it. Well, they kind of do, and I'll get to that in a second. But I really hope this also just means that they're going to do a better job of, nerfing and buffing the stuff in and out of PvP and PvE, because, one issue that Destiny has always suffered from is when something is too strong in PvP and they try to adjust it, it ruins it in PvE. And this is a perfect example with Stasis. Stasis is so bad in PvE right now. Like, there's no reason to ever use it, which is so weird because look how strong it is in PvP. But then it's like the exact opposite. Like, no one's using the light classes in PvP, even though they are superior in every way in PvE. So hopefully Bungie can get a better handle on balancing the two. Season 15, they will be looking to adjust overall ability usage to make sure gunplay is still key to success in Crucible. I think this is very important. I've said it before. Currently, Crucible feels like Destiny 1 all over again, where abilities are so much stronger than guns, so we're not really forced to use guns, and I think mostly this is because of Stasis. Next up, we have cheating. Targeting cheating. Aiming to nearly double size of their security. So, yeah, I mean, that's a big change, double the size of their security team that deals with, cheating and all that stuff. Also adding like a survey system to help better understand cheating experiences. Again, good, that'll help with like the reports and all that stuff. And then lastly, which in my opinion, this is crazy. I mean, this is not crazy, but this is the most important, and I really hope that this is starting something in gaming, period. Is Bungie's begun, a strategy, like an aggressive legal action against these cheating developers, these people that are making cheats in video games, and they're not doing it alone. They're working with other companies. Specifically, I know that Bungie worked with Riot recently to take down some of these developers. So again, that's to me the biggest and most important thing to take away from the cheating stuff. I know that cheating is frustrating, and I know specifically the Destiny community is frustrated with cheating on PC, and they think it's really, really awful. And I agree, it is awful. But I do feel like the Destiny community is also very new to this because they're recently moving to PC. This is not new. Speaking as someone that's been on the PC community for my entire life, this is the PC community. Cheating has always been around, and no video game company has ever done a good job of stopping it. I've been playing Counter-Strike for almost 20 years, and let me tell you, it's 10 times worse than Destiny. I've played games like H1Z1, where it's awful. I know PUBG is awful. Call of Duty on PC is awful. Apex has an insane amount of cheaters. I mean, every single shooter on PC has an insane amount of cheaters. So for a company like Bungie, which is so surprising but so awesome, brand new PC company basically, to already be, strategizing ways to take legal action against these developers is huge. And if other developers can start doing this and working together, this is no longer a competition. Like, let's work together and take down these developers. That's huge. That's serious. I mean, taking legal action against these people that are creating cheats will definitely deter people from doing it in the future. I mean, you could get into serious trouble, you know what I mean? Like, so yes, this is very good. This is one of the biggest things that I feel like developers can do to deal with cheating. So I think this is the best news. Obviously, doubling the size and the survey system is cool and all, but I feel like the legal action is very important, and it's good for the future of dealing with cheaters. Moving on to PvP modes. Bungie wants to adjust aspiration in their two quote unquote, like their competitive modes. So this is very interesting that they specifically talk about Trials and Iron Banner. So again, this is just speculation, but it definitely feels like Bungie's been moving away from comp for a very long time, which some people might be disappointed with. Me personally, competitive was never competitive in Destiny, so I don't really have a problem with them moving away from it. I feel like the game modes in comp were always bad, so focusing on Trials and Iron Banner being their two competitive game modes is fine. It's whatever. I still think Trials game mode is awful. The elimination is just not very competitive in Destiny. It doesn't really work with Destiny, but maybe that'll change. I don't know. But so specifically Trials, they want to improve the overall health of Trials matchmaking by incentivizing a wider audience to engage and better define separation of skill tiers. So this is kind of confusing to read. So they talk about messing with the matchmaking to allow a wider audience to play, right? And then also separating the skill tiers. So I took two things from this, and again, this is just speculation. This is very vague, but it sounds like kind of like connection-based matchmaking, but then also skill-based matchmaking. So I think this is a touchy subject for some, and I think that this is something that Bungie has to look at very carefully. Skill-based matchmaking is never the answer in shooters. No matter, I personally don't care what people say. Like, every single game that has skill-based matchmaking, the PvP community hates it. Every single game. There's never been a game where people are like, "Oh yeah, we love SBMM." Like, it's never been a thing, And Bungie, for the most part, has decided to remove it from Destiny, and for the most part, it feels like people are enjoying Crucible more when it comes to matchmaking. Specifically with Trials, I think connection-based is definitely the right direction. Skill-based, to give a very good example of why skill-based is a bad idea, is because even for the people that say, I hate playing people out of my league, and I understand that, and that makes sense, right? You don't like playing people that are way better than you. Well, skill-based will remove you playing people way better than you, but it's also going to remove you playing people worse than you. And the reason why that is a bad idea in something like Trials is the whole point of Trials, right, is to go flawless, to win 7 straight games. The chances of you winning 7 straight games, if you're always playing somebody equal to you, is virtually impossible, because the whole point of skill-based matchmaking is that you win 50% of your games. Again, so think about that for a second. No matter what skill level you are, you're going to lose half of your games. So Trials is nearly impossible. Now, again, so the point of something like Trials is, lucky enough to play 7 games with people worse than you. And yes, for the very bottom tier player, there's nobody worse than them. So yeah, skill-based matchmaking helps them, but that's the only people it helps. And it just doesn't make any sense. So again, Bungie has to be careful with how they do this. Well, obviously Trials is a miss. I think that there's more that needs to be changed than just matchmaking. I think the game mode is one of the biggest issues. They don't really talk about the game mode, but anyways, there's more. They also want to rebuild the Trials reward structure so that you don't restart so much after a loss. So they specifically talk about for the better players, when they get a loss, they want to incentivize to continue going. So it sounds like there'll be good rewards even from losing. So it sounds like they're really kind of just getting rid of maybe the whole concept of flawless. Like there still will maybe there'll be like multiple tiers where like flawless still gets you something good, but also just like continuing to go for longer periods of time will also give you the same quality of loot. I don't know. Again, they're very vague, but I think that's a good idea. I think maybe the whole idea of flawless just needs to go. Maybe it just doesn't. It's not healthy for the game. Maybe I don't know. So again, interesting to see what they do with this. Also, they want to add a way for solo players to play trials and enjoy trials, which again I think that's a good idea. It's never really made sense to not have matchmaking or a way for solo players to play trials. One of the worst things about trials is it just seems like very dead and there's not a lot to it. So getting more people into the game mode will definitely make it better. I mean that's kind of the thing with any PvP game. The smaller the player pool, the worse, because normally the smaller that means it's just full of the very, very good, and that's never healthy. So yeah, if they can get solo players in, if they can add matchmaking, I definitely think that's good. And then lastly, again, they mentioned Iron Banner. Iron Banner will definitely get a refresh, but there's pretty much no information on what Iron Banner will be receiving. So again, definitely targeting something for Iron Banner in the future and trials. Yeah. Moving on, Praetus Revenge. Starting in Season 14, Vault of Glass will be returning. So a lot of us have been speculating this for a while. I was thinking that it was going to be coming earlier. I thought possibly this season, but confirmation, it is returning next season. Specifically, they talk about it'll be launching in the summer, which is interesting because the season, I believe, starts in April. I think, or maybe May. I mean, summer I guess is June. So yeah, if they say summer, so it makes sense. I mean, summer starts in June 21st, unless that's just basically a mistake and just referring to June as the summer. I don't know, but yeah, they say specifically it'll be starting in the summer. There will be some changes to Vault of Glass so that it is still challenging and fits basically the Destiny 2 raid criteria, because Destiny 2, we have gotten very, very powerful. And whether you want to believe this or not, Destiny 2 raids are more difficult than Destiny 1 raids. Again, because we have gotten so strong, because of our weapons have gotten so crazy. If Vault of Glass was going to come out exactly the same copy possible, we would destroy it. It would be so silly how quickly we would not annihilate that raid. So, glad to see this. I've talked about this a few times before. You also have to remember that the raid system was very different in Destiny 1. We had two versions of the raid. We had a version where you had infinite revives, and then we had a version where you had no revives. That would not work in this game, right? In this game, the token system was designed for a reason because of how raids were changed and how more mechanical raids are. Where if you pretty much lose a person, you're almost screwed. Like if your person's dead, like you're done. So yeah. Anyways, this is interesting. So obviously, Destiny the raid will change a little bit. Expect a few tricks is what they said for the launch. So again, very exciting. The raid will launch with a contest mode for the first 24 hours, and there will be a world's first race. This is very weird. I know I'm not the first person to think this. Everybody I've seen pretty much talking about this thinks this is strange and a kind of a bad idea. But whatever. No one's going to consider this a world's first race in terms of an actual, you win this, you got yourself a world's first raid. It's not a new raid. So the competition is different, though. Not only will you have to complete the raid, but you'll have to complete challenging triumphs. So obviously there's going to be some challenges and stuff. Maybe specific ways of doing encounters or whatever that you'll have to complete. And the first person to do all of that and beat the raid receives a belt. Again, kind of strange, but at the end of the day, who cares? I understand why they're doing it. They want it to be a fun event for the community, and good for them. It will be a fun event no matter what, but I just feel like calling it a world's first race and, receiving a belt for completing the raid is kind of strange because that already happened, 7 years ago or something. So anyways, whatever. It's okay. Also, players will have plenty of opportunities to earn real-world loot through the Bungie reward for completing the raid. I don't know if this is specifically in the 24 hours. I think it is. I think that's what they're referring to. But maybe it's just, completing the raid period, incentivize people to get in the raid. Because if there's one thing that's kind of sad about Destiny is that the amount of players that complete the raids in general is very low. This is based off of information that I've personally seen. I don't know if it's changed at all in the last year or so, but it's like less than 10% of the entire Destiny community even attempts raids, let alone completes them. And it's kind of sad. I mean, Destiny raids are some of the, if not the best content in Destiny. And coming from someone who's been raiding since the beginning of Destiny 1, they're not that hard. I think people are afraid of them more than they should be. Anybody in Destiny could definitely complete a raid. Might take some attempts, learn the mechanics and all that stuff, but they're not that hard. And more ways we can get people to realize that and hop into raids, the better. I don't know. I think that there's some systems, unfortunately, that Bungie does not talk about at all in this update, but there needs to be a form of LFG in game. A lot of players in Destiny have no idea that LFG exists, whether it's like websites, Discord, whatever. There's a lot of people in the Destiny community that don't even know that that's a thing. So they think, how am I going to do a raid? I don't know 5 other people that are always around. And I get that, and that's fine. Where like other games that have great success have built-in LFGs where you can find people to complete a raid in-game. Like you literally go to like, maybe there's like a board in the tower and people are like signing up and it's like, hey, looking for people to do this. Like there definitely needs to be something like that in Destiny to help get people into the raids. But moving on, more awesome news. This is very exciting. It's kind of strange. But Bungie plans on adding a master mode to Vault of Glass and raids and dungeons in the future. So they said it'll be similar to Master and GM Nightfalls because they like how people have been really excited about Master and Grandmaster difficulty and how it's changed Nightfalls. Specifically, they say, increases the potency of combat and the importance of executing mechanics. So I agree that there needs to be different tiers of raids. I've said this for a while, but you have to go about this the right way. It's kind of strange to me how Bungie, specifically says how people have liked Master and Grandmaster versions of Nightfalls. I don't see that personally. I don't feel like Master and Grandmaster Nightfalls are that enjoyed by the community. The extra layer of like difficulty in terms of like, like a permanent contest mode or whatever like that is dope. Yeah, keeping us from over leveling is always a good idea in any endgame for raids and dungeons, but adding things like, champions where we specifically have to kill champions with these mods, with the specific mods for that season, that is unfun. And I feel like everybody agrees with that. It's not the mods themselves that's the issues. It's that the fact that Bungie forces us to use very specific loadouts. That's not fun. Like, Bungie is all about play the way you want to play the game, but except for when you're fighting champions. Again, that's unfun. Like, oh, you have to use a bow to overload this enemy, or you have to use a sniper rifle to do this, or a sidearm to do like. No one wants to do that. Like everyone wants to use what their favorite weapons are, and at the end of the day, there should be a way that Bungie can change that system. So hopefully, again, I don't want to go off on a long tangent, but hopefully they are really smart about how they do this. Again, to me, just a pure contest mode is a good idea. But again, they also specifically say that these more difficult versions will have adept loot, which is awesome. And they don't just say for raids. Like, this is for raids and dungeons. So all endgame, hopefully in the future, will have this higher difficulty. And I think that they should have more than one higher difficulty. There should be multiple difficulties of raids and dungeons. And every single one, basically, you have to get the previous stuff to get you further up in that line to that next tier. And I had actually talked about this in detail the last several days on stream, so it's really interesting that Joe talks about this. I'm sure it's coincidence, but it's awesome because it reminds me a lot of what I've been talking about for the past week or so. But yeah, so specifically they also say that they are unable to commit the Master of Vault of Glass to release in Season 14, but it's possible. Obviously, they're looking into lots of things, but it sounds like it's very possible that Master possibly could come out next season, but don't expect it. But the fact that they're targeting, a release as soon as possible for this kind of stuff is very, very exciting. So I can't wait. Next up, we have Getting Acquainted with Adelaide. Adelaide, 801, for those of you that don't know. In Season 14, Ada 1 is returning, and we are getting Transmog. This, is a long time coming. We got the announcement last summer that Transmog was finally coming, confirmed to Destiny. It took a little bit longer, I think, than they planned. I think it was supposed to be here in Beyond Light, but it kept getting pushed back. But confirmation, starting next season, Ada 1 will have Transmog. And Destiny's version of Transmog is called Armor Synthesis. You will be able to take any armor in your collections and turn it into a universal remote. The way you do this will be through Ada in the tower. Ada will offer a set of bounties that highlight various activities to complete. Completing these will basically give you material to power up Ada's Loom, which can turn any piece of armor in your collection into a permanent universal ornament. So the way I take this is anything in your collection, anything you've ever earned, you will want to turn it into a universal ornament. Once you do it once, it sounds like that's it. That's its universal ornament. So it's a little bit casualified in terms of like once you do one once. So like a hardcore player, someone who's like super dedicated, could just focus on trying to do this with everything they've ever collected, so that they can change anything they've ever wanted to forever. Which is cool. But at the same time, like, once you get the bulk out of the way, like, unless Bungie does like a major overhaul, like adding like tons and tons of new armor, you will be able to change anything whenever you want at will, which, again, it might be fine. So there's also two ways that you can earn the materials to make the universal ornaments. One, again, is by grabbing the set of bounties that Ada has. And then there's another way, which most games have this. And please, 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 please understand that every single game that has Transmog does this. For the players who don't want to play the game to earn Transmog, they can just buy it. So for those of you that have no desire to grind and complete these bounties and get your materials, at the end of the day, you can buy it for real money. You can use silver. So yeah, that'll be specifically Bungie says for the players that are short on time, they'll be able to purchase these synthesis tokens for silver. But yeah, so all around, very exciting. Transmog is something that is amazing. It makes video games more fun. You can make your character look however you want, and it's a full flesh system. They even show in the picture, greens, blues, white, like literally everything in the game will be a universal ornament possible of anything you've ever had in your collections, and they confirm, through collections. Once you've made your ornaments, we will have a new appearance screen. So again, that's what I'm showing right now. This is the new appearance screen in your character menu, where you can manage all ornaments in one place. You'll be able to apply shaders here individually or all pieces at once. So the shader system is also changing. They are removing the stacks of shaders. Shaders are now perma unlocks. So again, very, very exciting. At the beginning of Season 14, we will also be receiving the synthesis materials to be able to make universal ornaments just by completing like the beginning quest. So it will be giving us some right off the bat so that we can have fun with universal ornaments and Transmog. So very, very exciting. Very awesome. Cannot wait. This is something that's long overdue. We've all wanted. So very, very exciting. And then finally, the final topic of this amazing article, Combined Fire. So beginning in Season 15, crossplay confirmed. So this is, again, not next season, but the following season, which they have referred to as fall. So probably around September or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on the specific dates, but it's something like 6 months away. But yeah, so crossplay begins Season 15. There will be some minor testing, alpha testing, and some other things happening during Season 14 for them to get it ready. And crossplay, it's true crossplay. You will be able to play with anyone, no matter their platform. Anybody. Doesn't matter. Stadia, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One X, Series X, PC. We will all be able to play with each other no matter what. And then this is the biggest news. This is very important. It might not seem important, but this is very important. PvP will not be forced across platforms. It'll be opt-in. So it'll all be separate. So specifically, they say, I'm not really sure how I don't know, Stadia. I don't know if Stadia will be able to play. But specifically, they say, for like console, separating PC and console, if you are a console player and you were worried that you were going to be forced to play PC, you will not. The only way you will play Crucible on PC as a console player is if you choose to. So if you have a PC friend and you really want to play them and they invite you to their lobby, now you will be on the PC servers. You will be on the PC side, but you will never be forced to. And this is very good. I was worried about this. I was talking about how it would ruin console PvP if they were forced to play PC, because there's too much of a difference in the difference in the game with FOV and FPS and all that stuff. Even with next gen is still pretty far behind. So yeah. Anyways, this is very, very good. So you don't have to worry about that. If you want to play with your PC friends, you can. If not, you're still in your own console separate lobbies. So that is very, very good. But overall, being able to play with anybody in all of the like raids, dungeon strikes, bringing all the stuff that has matchmaking and patrols and all that in one giant world is amazing. I think it'll make everything feel so much better. You'll no longer have to worry what platform someone's on. This is very, very good news. Again, I kind of want to bring this up again, but now if Bungie can create an in-game LFG system, it'll make it even better. Because right now, we have all these LFG websites or Discord servers, but they're also separate, right? There's one for PC, there's one for PlayStation, one for Xbox. Now that will no longer be important. Come Season 15, everybody can share and everybody can play. So now we need a system that really, gets people able to play with each other in-game. Yeah. So, moving along, Ikora. Some of you have been wondering, where the heck has Ikora been? She's been gone for a long time. She will finally be making a return in Season 14 and will have a major role in The Witch Queen. So we will be seeing her next season and also in The Witch Queen, which will be Season 16 or 17. I guess we don't really have a date for that yet, but yeah. She will be making a return. So that's cool. Also, Season 15, we will be receiving special and power weapon stasis weapons. So, finally, we will be finally seeing some light classes have had these elements for a while. So, dark classes, finally, we'll see some stasis weapons. Unfortunately, it's still a couple seasons away. I thought Beyond Light was going to give us stasis weapons, but it didn't, so that's a little disappointing. But at least we have confirmation of that's in the works. Season 14, next season, they will be rolling out the second iteration of gilding titles, which is very cool. We only got a little bit of information about this, but we will be able to see how many times you've gilded your specific title with a little number next to it, as you see in this picture. But yeah, and that is pretty much it. That's gonna wrap it up. It kind of ends very suddenly. That's like the last piece of information we have. And then lastly, Joe just talks about being excited for the future and beyond, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm very excited. This was an amazing article. Seriously, Joe Blackburn is amazing. Did a very good job. Awesome dude. You guys should give this a read if you haven't already done so. And lastly, they gave us a little tease of some armor coming in Witch Queen. This is some concept armor for the Witch Queen, Hunter, Titan, Warlock. And it's interesting looking. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. Like I said, I'll leave a link to this in the description if you would like to read it yourselves. But yeah, thank you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, again, feel free to ask. Yeah, anyways, hope you guys have an awesome rest of the day. You should check out my Twitch sometime. Check me out. Stream Destiny every single day on Twitch, twitch.tv/Neji. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. Later, buds.